Are we started? Is this thing on? It is.
So, don't come to us for tech help.
No, technical help is not for us. We're back.
Hi.
After a hard time off trying to get the camera working. Back to Access. We're doing Joshua. We received a call. Let's go to the lines.
You've reached Access. What's your question? We're going to edit this out and start over again. So, Joshua is a continuation of the Deuteronomistic tradition that we talked about.
That's so hard.
It's so hard to say. That we talked about with Deuteronomy. And so what's going on right now is it's the 7th century. Israel has been a kingdom for a while now, but the northern kingdom has fallen. They've lost a lot of the land, and they're in the process of gearing up to reconquer it. So that's what's going on with the authors. And so the Joshua story becomes very meaningful for them. And so they write down the Joshua story as kind of like, I don't know, to kind of inspire the people that they can reconquer the promised land, that it has been done before, that this is the land God promised them, that it will be theirs once again.
Joshua is the Gipper. Go out and win one for the old Gipper, right?
Yes. And I should probably say that that the authors see Joshua as kind of a pre-King David. And interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I read that in a book. It was a good book. It was thick, so you know it's good. And so that's why it's also really important to them, because the king at this time is Josiah, who is part of that Davidic line of kings.
Yay!
Yay!
Moses likes it.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to that whole family idea that we talk about, that it's kind of a hereditary birthright to be in this land. Yeah, and to rule over this land. But for good, not for exclusion. Not to be jerks, but to be a blessing.
So that's the authorship. I'm going to talk more about the historical context. So back to the story of Joshua when he came into the Promised Land, or Canaan is what they called it then. When
is that?
Yes, no, it's an excellent question. We put the conquest of the land from 1250 to about 1200. It's around in there. So our three main ideas about how the conquest actually happened. In the Joshua story that we have, it is a very simple and clean affair. So Joshua goes in, and in about 3 military pushes, cleans out the entire land of Canaan. It just falls like that. Boom! Yeah, it's easy. The archaeological record that we have is not so easy. So some of the cities that Joshua destroyed, like Ai and Lachish, we have really good records that go back to that period, and we see burned walls, and it looks very much like what we would expect in Joshua. But some of the cities that are recorded being destroyed, like Jericho, that we'll talk about in a little bit, there's no record of that at all. And so scholars, looking at the written sources that we've got and then the archaeological sources, they give us kind of 3 possibilities for what happened. And one is the military incursion that you have very much described in Joshua, where big armies come in and they clean house. There is a second idea that's put forth, because we have some evidence of Hebrews living in the land even before the Exodus, so it's a little messy. But there's the Hebrew uprising from within, or they call it the peasant uprising, with their rakes and forks and whap, leaf blowers. And so that's one possibility. And then there is the gradual incursion theory, is the third theory, where it is military, but it's over a long period of time. And what most scholars would have you think as you're reading this book is acknowledge that probably all three of those theories are a little bit true in reality, and that this story is kind of a stylized history designed in many ways to make the people that Nicole is talking about in the 7th century feel strong and hey, you can do this.
It's
So
a pep talk.
it's a bit of a pep talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right,
You know?
but just to understand,
Yeah, this is
the story for what it is.
This is the story for what it is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times this is where people in the popular culture have some problems, where they're like, oh, the archaeological evidence doesn't match up exactly with the Bible, so forget the Bible. And it's like, no, it's a work of literature. Think about why things don't match, and wrestle through it.
You bet. And a lot does. So, a lot of the record matches.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the sense of all the history we tell and interpret.
Yeah.
And that's what Joshua is interpretive history.
Every history
is interpretive.
is interpretive.
Exactly.
So they're not doing anything different than we do today with history.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the big theme or the big point of Joshua?
The big theme is the claiming of the promised land. Sometimes books are really complicated and have like 20 different major points and great stories. That would be the case with like Genesis. But Joshua is very focused. There is a mission. It's claiming the promised land. We're going to do it. We're going to do it right. And that's what it's about. Yeah.
All right, great. And then the 3 stories, I think you start us off with one of my favorites, which is Rahab.
The story of Rahab is found in the 2nd chapter of Joshua. If you're going to know a story from Joshua before these tapes, you're probably going to know the Rahab story. So they're on the verge of going into the promised land, and Joshua sends 2 spies into Jericho to check it out, to scout it out, to see. Yeah, it's like a reconnaissance mission. Doo-doo.
Okay. Let's do Mission Impossible.
It was. I finished it.
Yeah.
It's a good song. And it would seem like a Mission Impossible.
It would, but with God, all things are possible.
And so
Sounds like a T-shirt, Nicole.
I really wish I could get some sort of sticker for my bumper with something like that on it. Do they make those?
Perhaps a bumper sticker.
I don't know. I think we're gonna put it on the website next to the Moses Che Guevara shirts.
Yes. Ay. But to go back to Rahab.
Go back to Rahab. So she is a prostitute who has a little apartment in the city walls, as it's kind of described. And the spies come, and she gives them kind of refuge for the night. And it doesn't really go into a lot of detail on why they pick Rahab.
Well, safe place. This is just my own spin, but a lot of people go to this place, and when they're leaving, no one's going to be acknowledging one another when they go. So
Rahab's a prostitute.
Yeah.
So she's kind of got a brothel apartment.
Yeah. And that creates a very private atmosphere.
Right.
So anyone who doesn't want to be found, it's a good place to go.
Yes. And so the authorities of Jericho hear that there's 2 Israelite spies in the city. They go to Rahab and they're like, we know you have them. But she was tipped off. And she snuck them up onto her roof and hides them in flax.
Yes.
And so she keeps them safe from the authorities, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. There were people here, but they've already left the city, and they're headed that way. And so she throws them off to the side. And so the spies come down. No, she goes up to them. Sorry, she goes up to the roof and talks to them and says,
I think she just likes flax.
why not? It's a agricultural product.
Exactly.
I don't really know what you do with flax. I'm not a farmer. I'm not. And so she says, clearly your God has given you this land. We've heard about what happened at the Red Sea, and we don't want to mess with this. She wants to be on the right side of this battle.